In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on December 19, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Philadelphia 76ers versus New York Knicks. A tricky spot waits for the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday as they walk into Madison Square Garden to face the newly crowned NBA Cup champion New York Knicks. Philly has actually held its own away from home with a 6-4 straight-up record on the road, but recent meetings with the Knicks have not been kind. They have dropped 5 in a row in the series. At MSG, it has been even rougher, with just 1 win in their last 6 visits, so the obvious question is whether this is finally the night they flip that script. The encouraging part for Philly is that their top guys are coming in with some real momentum. Paul George is fresh off his best outing of the season, a 35-point showing against the Hawks, and Joel Embiid chipped in 22 points and 14 boards in that same game. On top of that, the 76ers have been sitting since Sunday night, so their legs should feel a lot lighter than the Knicks' bodies. In an 82-game grind, that rest edge is not just a little thing. It often shows up in the second half when close games start to tilt one way. New York, on the other hand, has packed a lot into a short stretch. Since Sunday, they have played twice, traveled from Vegas to Indiana, then back to New York, and now step into a second game in 2 nights. That is a lot of miles and minutes. They were already shorthanded against Indiana without Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson, and both remain questionable for Friday. If even one of them sits, it puts extra pressure on the Knicks on the glass, and if both miss again, the rebounding battle could get lopsided fast against a 76ers front court built around Embiid and Andre Drummond. Here is the thing though, the Knicks have been a wagon at home, winning 13 of their last 14 at MSG, and the market is still going to price them as clear favorites. Even with tired legs, this is not a team that usually lays down, especially in front of that crowd. But sometimes the schedule hands you what bettors like to call a scheduling loss, a spot where the circumstances matter almost as much as the matchup. The Knicks just lifted the NBA Cup. Some players took a beating physically. They survived a walk-off win last night, then had to fly home and gear up again on short rest against a rested opponent. There are also lingering questions about whether Karl Anthony Towns, Josh Hart, and Mitchell Robinson will all be ready to go, and that uncertainty hangs over the Knicks' rotation. That starting 5 they rolled out last night looked rough at times, especially when asked to manufacture energy for long stretches. New York keeps finding ways to win games and reward backers, so fading them never feels comfortable. But the situational spot here leans hard toward Philadelphia, which has been sitting, scouting, and waiting for 5 full days. The talent gap still tilts toward the Knicks overall, but this specific setup makes the 76ers the side that is more likely to hold up across 4 quarters and outperform the number. As our first pick for this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers money line is our full game side pick. Philadelphia came into Monday night with the under hitting in 13 of their first 25 games. The 76ers sit around the middle of the pack in scoring, roughly 16th in the league, and sit close to the middle again in offensive efficiency at 15th. Their tempo is not especially fast either, ranking 18th with an average of 99.7 possessions per game. That kind of profile usually leans toward more measured, half-court possessions and fewer wild scoring spikes. The Knicks, before Thursday night's game, had seen the overconnect in 13 of their first 25 contests. They bring real offensive punch, sitting 3rd in scoring offense and 2nd in offensive efficiency, while also holding their own defensively at around 11th in defensive efficiency. Even with that scoring power, they do not exactly race up and down. Their tempo ranks 26th with a modest 98.4 possessions per game. So you have one team playing at a moderate pace and the other playing even slower, which often pushes totals toward the lower side unless the shooting gets absurd. History between these two helps the case as well. 5 of the last 6 meetings have landed under the posted number, which hints that their styles tend to grind into each other rather than explode. When you layer in the context for this specific game, it reinforces that idea. A tired Knicks team, on the second night of a back-to-back with travel, is more likely to manage minutes, lean on half-court sets, and shorten the rotation. On the other side, the 76ers may prefer to pound the ball inside, use Embiid's post touches, and control the tempo instead of playing a track meet. There may also be missing pieces for both squads, which usually drags down offensive rhythm and shot quality more than it hurts defense. All of that points toward a game where points come, but not in a constant rush, and where long possessions and fatigue keep the total from ballooning too high. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Miami Heat versus Boston Celtics. Miami, sitting at 14-12, is trying to climb the Southeast Division ladder when it walks into TD Garden on Friday night to take on Boston. It is not exactly a soft landing spot either. The Heat are banged up and they just played last night, which is usually a rough setup for a short-handed roster that has to lean on the same guys over and over again. Boston comes in with a strong recent record in this matchup, 8-2 straight up and 7-3 against the spread in the last 10 meetings with Miami. That history will pull a lot of attention to the Celtics side. Even so, this number feels a little inflated because Boston often looks more comfortable as the hunter, taking points, than as the heavy favorite asked to win by margin. Big home favorites can get a bit casual, especially against a team they have handled before, and that is where things get interesting for Miami backers. The Heat are still a gritty, competitive group no matter which names are actually available. We have already seen Boston lose outright twice over the last month as a favorite of 5 points or more, with November 21st as a reference point in that stretch. So, it is not like they are invincible when the market stacks expectations on their side. Add in the fact that this is still a genuine rivalry where the teams do not exactly adore each other, and you usually get focused efforts from both sides rather than a sleepy regular season snoozer. That extra edge, plus the generous spread, tilts the value toward trusting Miami to hang around and use that underdog chip on the shoulder for a full 48 minutes. As our first pick for this matchup, the Miami Heat to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Miami is averaging 120.7 points per game, which is a serious amount of scoring. They are playing at what is described as the fastest pace in the league, about 108.6 possessions per game, and they are facing an opponent that has allowed 113.7 points per game over its last 3 contests. That combination of tempo and recent defensive performance on the Boston side naturally leans toward more possessions and more chances for points. On the other side, the Celtics are averaging 116.2 points per game. Their pace number is at the opposite end, listed as the 30th fastest in the league at 99.4 possessions per game, so they are more methodical. Even with that slower tempo, they are stepping into a matchup with a Miami team that has given up 118.5 points per game on the road. When one team scores efficiently at a slower pace and the other pushes tempo with a high scoring average, you often end up with a total that hinges on whether both offenses simply play to their season norms. Here, both profiles point toward a game where defense might struggle to keep up with shot making for long stretches. A fast tempo from Miami, plus Boston's ability to score in a more controlled style, still adds up to a healthy overall total. If the Heat can keep running and the Celtics maintain their usual offensive output at home, the scoreboard has plenty of ways to climb past the projected number, even if there are a few quiet minutes here and there. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Chicago Bulls versus Cleveland Cavaliers. The Chicago Bulls head to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse to face the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday night, and it is one of those matchups that feels messy before the ball is even tipped. Chicago is still monitoring the status of Trey Jones and A.O. Dawson-Mu, both listed as questionable, while Cleveland has already ruled out Max Strus, Sam Merrill, and Evan Mobley, with Donovan Mitchell sitting in that annoying questionable bucket. When both teams are juggling injuries like this, trying to back either side purely on recent form feels like guesswork more than analysis. Even so, it is traditionally tough to beat the same opponent twice in a row, so you can reasonably expect the Cavaliers to come out with some urgency and aggression in this spot. In previous seasons, this would feel like a textbook bounce-back situation for Cleveland, a chance to return home and win comfortably by double digits. The problem is that this version of the Cavs has looked stuck in a bit of a funk, and their performances have not consistently matched their talent level. Laying a big number with a team that is not really clicking can turn into a frustrating sweat, especially against a Bulls squad that, for all its flaws, still has enough scoring to hang around if the favorite goes through one of those cold stretches. So while Cleveland might still be the more likely winner outright, the gap on the spread looks a little too generous toward the home team here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Chicago Bulls to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Bulls are averaging 117.2 points per game on 46.8% shooting from the field, while allowing 122.4 points on 47.7% shooting. That is the profile of a team that can score, but also leaks plenty on the defensive end, which usually nudges people to think automatic over without much debate. They are knocking down 36.1% of their threes and hitting 79.4% from the free throw line, and they are surrendering 36.6% from deep while pulling down 45.3 rebounds per contest. Cleveland's numbers look just as lively at first glance. The Cavaliers are putting up 118.7 points per game on 45.6% shooting and giving up 116 points on 46.2%. From beyond the arc, they sit at 33.9% with a 77.2% clip at the charity stripe, and they are allowing opponents to hit 36.8% from three while grabbing 45 rebounds per game. On paper, that is a lot of offense on both sides and defenses that are not exactly locking teams in a cage. Here is where it gets a bit counterintuitive. Even with those scoring averages, the injuries and the questionable tags could drag down rhythm, rotations, and overall cohesion on offense. Tired legs and patchwork lineups often hurt shot quality more than they completely destroy defensive effort. If both coaching staffs shorten rotations slightly and lean on longer half-court possessions instead of constant transition, the game can land in a scoring range that falls short of what those season averages suggest. So while the stat lines look like a fireworks show waiting to happen, the situational context leaves room for a game that plays a little slower, feels a little choppier, and ultimately sneaks under the projected number. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. The Bulls are averaging 117.2 points per game on 46.8% shooting from the field, while allowing 122.4 points on 47.7% shooting. That is the profile of a team that can score, but also leaks plenty on the defensive end, which usually nudges people to think automatic over without much debate. They are knocking down 36.1% of their threes and hitting 79.4% from the free throw line, and they are surrendering 36.6% from deep while pulling down 45.3 rebounds per contest. Cleveland's numbers look just as lively at first glance. The Cavaliers are putting up 118.7 points per game on 45.6% shooting and giving up 116 points on 46.2%. From beyond the arc, they sit at 33.9% with a 77.2% clip at the charity stripe, and they are allowing opponents to hit 36.8% from three while grabbing 45 rebounds per game. On paper, that is a lot of offense on both sides and defenses that are not exactly locking teams in a cage. Here is where it gets a bit counterintuitive. Even with those scoring averages, the injuries and the questionable tags could drag down rhythm, rotations, and overall cohesion on offense. Tired legs and patchwork lineups often hurt shot quality more than they completely destroy defensive effort. If both coaching staffs shorten rotations slightly and lean on longer half-court possessions instead of constant transition, the game can land in a scoring range that falls short of what those season averages suggest. So while the stat lines look like a fireworks show waiting to happen, the situational context leaves room for a game that plays a little slower, feels a little choppier, and ultimately sneaks under the projected number. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. San Antonio Spurs versus Atlanta Hawks. Losing that NBA Cup final hurt, no way around it, but for a young Spurs group it doubles as a lesson that you usually cannot buy. The good sign is how they responded. They came right back with a dominant 119-94 win over Washington, which fits the pattern of a team that is quietly putting together a very respectable regular season. You can feel their confidence growing week by week, even if they are still figuring things out on the fly. Victor Wembanyama keeps trending in the right direction in his return from injury, injury, and you get the sense it is only a matter of time before he is back in the starting lineup playing his usual 33-plus minutes. Honestly, that might come as early as Friday, which would be a big boost against a Hawks team stuck in a second game in 2 nights. San Antonio has also treated bettors kindly, sitting at 10-5 against the spread in 15 games, and they have handled the matchup itself well, going 4-2 against the spread and straight up in 6 meetings. It is not everything, but familiarity like that does give them a little mental edge. Now, normally when a team gets its star guard back from injury, everyone just assumes it is a pure positive. I am not convinced that is true for the Hawks with Trae Young right now. Let me explain. Offensively, he is still special. He led the league in assists per game last season and can bend a defense like few others. But his slight frame has become a real problem on the defensive side, to the point where he can feel like a net negative overall for Atlanta. We saw a perfect example of that last night in Charlotte, when the Hornets, who sit only 18th in scoring at 115.5 points per game, hung 133 on the Hawks. If that group can do that on them, things only get trickier against a Spurs team that is in form and unafraid to attack. San Antonio's guards should be able to put serious pressure on Young and the Hawks' perimeter defense, and I expect them to keep leaning into that matchup over and over. Jalen Johnson feels like Atlanta's best hope to steady things, but even when he goes off, there are no guarantees this version of the Hawks actually gets across the line. The Spurs, on the other hand, are in a good groove, having strung together 4 straight wins. From a health standpoint, they are basically at full strength, which is rare and pretty valuable in this part of the schedule. With Wembanyama able to control the paint and Kristaps Porzingis listed as out along with 2 other centers, the interior battle sets up nicely for San Antonio to dictate terms inside. This is exactly the kind of spot where a confident favorite can both win and separate. As our first pick for this matchup, the San Antonio Spurs to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The San Antonio Spurs are averaging 119.7 points on 48.3% shooting and allowing 115.2 points on 47% shooting. The San Antonio Spurs are shooting 36.6% from beyond the arc and 79.5% from the free throw line. The San Antonio Spurs are allowing 37.6% shooting from deep and are grabbing 45.1 rebounds per game. The Atlanta Hawks are averaging 118 points on 48.2% shooting and allowing 117.4 points on 46.9% shooting. The Atlanta Hawks are shooting 37.2% from beyond the arc and 78.8% from the free throw line. The Atlanta Hawks are allowing 35.2% shooting from deep and are grabbing 42.1 rebounds per game. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Oklahoma City Thunder versus Minnesota Timberwolves. The Oklahoma City Thunder head to the Target Center to face the Minnesota Timberwolves on Friday, and it has, wait for the injury report, written all over it. The Thunder are still without Isaiah Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, and Nikola Topic, while the Timberwolves have ruled out Mike Conley and listed Anthony Edwards as questionable. That last part really hangs over everything. If Edwards plays, the whole feel of this matchup shifts. If he sits, Minnesota loses its main shot creator and emotional spark, which matters a lot in a game like this. Oklahoma City just bounced back from only its second loss of the season with a convincing win over a struggling Wizards team. That response fits who they have been so far, a young group that takes setbacks personally and usually answers with energy. Now they walk into the second leg of a back-to-back against a tough Timberwolves team, so the spot is not exactly cushy. On paper, you would love to grab the points with Minnesota. The talent is there, and when this team actually decides to show up, it can look like it belongs in the top tier and can beat pretty much anyone. The headache is those random no-show nights. You never quite know which version is going to walk on the floor. That bad loss to the Grizzlies is still fresh proof that their floor can be a lot lower than their ceiling. Add in the uncertainty around Edwards, and it feels risky to trust them blindly. The Thunder, even with the back-to-back concern, are playing like a buzzsaw right now. If their opponent is not ready for the full 48 minutes, things can get ugly in a hurry, and they have shown that over and over. OKC has covered in 5 of its last 6 games, which says a lot about how consistently they have met or exceeded expectations. Stack that against the Timberwolves' volatility, and it quietly pushes you toward the favorite, even if the schedule spot is not perfect. As our first pick for this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Oklahoma City Thunder are averaging 123.1 points per game and allowing 106.4 points on 42.8% opponent shooting. They are knocking down 37.6% of their threes and 83.4% from the free throw line, while allowing 36.5% shooting from deep and pulling in 44.8 rebounds per game. That is the profile of a team that can light it up offensively and still control the glass enough to create extra chances. The Minnesota Timberwolves are averaging 119.8 points per game on 48.7% shooting and giving up 114.5 points on 46.3%. From beyond the arc, they are hitting 38%, and they are at 77.1% at the stripe. Defensively, they are allowing 35.5% from three and collecting 43.5 rebounds per night. So you have two offenses that shoot efficiently, both from the field and from deep, and both teams crash the boards well enough to keep second chance points in play. When you put that together, it sets up as a game where the scoring floor feels pretty high. Even if one side has a cold stretch, the sheer offensive talent, shooting efficiency, and rebounding should keep the scoreboard moving. If the pace holds anywhere near normal for these two and the shooting numbers stay close to those averages, there is a very real path to this total going over without needing a completely wild shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.